Welcome everybody to Planning Commission tonight. Looks like we have 6 of our commissioners here tonight, and I've asked Commissioner Marzan to give us an inspirational thought.
What we know matters, but who we are matters more. That's by Brene Brown.
Thank you. Okay, everybody have a chance to review the minutes from 2 weeks ago? It shouldn't have been a long read.
There was one part where it said Commissioner Ryan. I don't know if we wanted to say Commissioner Frisbee. Oh, you did? Okay.
Any other issues? Need a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept the consent agenda as amended.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second, Frisbee.
Motion is second. All in favor by yes?
Yes.
Yes. Any opposed? Okay. We'll move on. Public forum. This is an opportunity for the public to talk to us about an item that is not on the agenda. If it's on the agenda and it's in one of the items that we're going to get to, hold off until we get to that. Seeing none, we'll move on and get to the new business. Item 5.1. This is a public hearing that has been tabled, so we're not going to do that one. So we're going to move to 5.2, which is a Hyatt Creek Plat C zone change. And this is a request by Tyler Horan to change the zoning in Utah County parcel 292347. And it's located at, doesn't say. The applicant is requesting RMF 10 multifamily residential zoning designation, and the current property is zoned A5H, which is our holding zone. Mike will give us a presentation on that.
Okay, this is the Hyatt Creek subdivision Plat C zone change request. Here's the vicinity you can see from the Utah County parcel map. Address approximately 1130 South, 950 West. You can see the parcel number there. The current zoning is A5H, which is that annexation holding zone. They are requesting the residential multifamily zone RMF 10. A little bit of history there. It's been recently annexed and now has approved a general plan amendment that was done last month. And with that general plan amendment, it would allow from 3 units an acre to 6 units per acre. So this is a little bit better map. You can see the property. Since it's a zone change request, we have to have a public hearing. That's what we'll be doing here. It is a legislative action, just reminding everyone to make a zone change. And so city council will have to do that. The third bullet point there talks about some previously made zone change, which was, I believe it's immediately to the east was the property that was changed in March for the same purpose. Engineering staff have voiced a few concerns about utility capacities. This property will be fine for utilities, but potential property down the road will need to have some enhancements to utilities. So this is our staff recommendation here to have the 8.39 acres at approximately 1130 South, 950 West. Have the zone change from A5H annexation holding zone to RMF 10 residential multifamily zone. And so staff recommends a positive recommendation on that, but you have those 3 options of what you can do tonight. So
Okay. Is the applicant here? Mike? Would you like to speak to us a little bit before we go to the public hearing? Thank you. State your name for the record.
Tyler Haran. I guess the only thing that I would add to this is we are asking for the RMF 10 zone, but we submitted a development agreement with this request, and I guess that's going to go to the city council. But essentially the development agreement says that we realize this zone entitles you to build up to 10, but we're only going to build the 6. So we're asking that this zone change be approved with the development agreement. And then that development agreement, as you know, would be recorded against the property. So that would limit us to the 6 units per acre. So that's the only thing I would add. Or I guess if you guys had any questions.
Questions for you?
Yeah.
Any commissioners have any questions for him? Okay, not at this time.
Thank
You
you.
might have some questions later on. So,
Okay, thank you.
any questions for staff before we open public hearing? Need a motion then.
I move we open public hearing.
Second.
Motion is seconds by Commissioner Warner. All in favor by yes?
Yes.
Any opposed? Okay, no one opposed. This is an opportunity for the public to talk to us about this item. If you would come to the microphone, state your name and limit your discussion to 3 minutes or less. Anybody on their online, raise their hand. Okay,
Close public hearing.
we have a motion to close the public hearing.
Second, Frisbee.
Motion and a second. All in favor by yes?
Yes.
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 Any opposed? Okay, discussion between the commissioners.
I'm appreciative of the development agreement.
Mhm.
We agonized a little bit about what to do west of the stream there.
We did.
And I'm appreciative of the stipulations that brings in.
Yeah, I. Options are to forward a negative recommendation to the city council or to send it back to staff for additional work. Anybody want to make a motion?
I'd make a motion that we recommend city council approval of the Hyatt Creek Plat C zone change, conditional upon the development agreement, as well as all staff conditions, seeing as this will meet the desired development out in that area based off the specific plan for the area.
Yeah, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor by yes?
Yes.
Yes. Any opposed? Okay, it'll go to city council. So, okay, next item is the Whatcott subdivision, Plat B and overlay zone change. This is requested by Bradley Downey to subdivide Utah County parcel 55959002 and obtain an RMO1 two-family residential overlay. The property is located at 327 North, 500 East. And they want to subdivide the above stated property into two parcels of approximately 6,200 square feet each. And it's currently an R175 zone. So Mike will give us something on that, I assume.
Okay, so In order to build two families, two twin homes there, they need the RMO zone designation. And so that's why they are here. As you can see, the information that's been stated with the address, there's the parcel number there, the zoning, and they're just requesting the RMO two-family residential overlay. The property is approximately 2.85 acres and relatively large for this zone. The property provides an opportunity for infill development. So here's a proximity of the property with the pinpoint there on the aerial map showing the property to be potentially receive the overlay. And then you can see in the lower left corner, that's the layout for the two twin home lots. There was one negative public comment that was received on this project from a concerned citizen.
Is that citizen here?
I don't
Miss-
know.
Mr. Horn?
Yes, sir.
Okay, when we get to the public comment part, if you want to come up, we'll go from there.
So here's the parcel map. You can see the property there. Requesting the overlay, as we said, it's an infill project seeking for opportunity to develop the twin homes. It meets all of the regulations for city code, and thus staff is willing to make the recommendation for approval on this item.
Okay. Is the applicant here? Okay. Any questions for staff before we? Do we need public hearing on this, don't we?
Yes.
I move we open public hearing.
Second.
I have a
order.
motion, I have a motion and a second. All in favor by yes?
Yes.
Yes. Any opposed? Okay, opportunity for the public to come and talk to us about this item. Again, limit your comments to 3 minutes. State your name for the record, please.
Robert Horn.
Thank you.
So I'd really like to, as a concerned citizen in a single family area, I'm really worried about these houses that get turned into these duplexes, these properties that get turned into these duplexes. They end up being renter units that are just constantly people in and out. They end up having a lot of issues with just high turnover. We're trying to, in the area, we're trying to have a stronger community, stronger family presence. And then I'm also very worried about the plumbing that's going through there. As if that's going on to Fifth East there, that's the slope on that hill is going to be extremely problematic to do that. But those are the two concerns that I really have with that. And I'd really love that if that were to be turned, and I guess the person isn't here today that's going to be doing this project, but I'd love for a single family, maybe even put a little basement rental in there or something to that effect. But it'd be really great if we could get back to those single family homes within the community. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other public comment?
My name is David Walters. I live right across the street from this subdivision going on. And I just wonder where they're getting all this water from for all the houses that they're putting in all the time. We're in severe drought. So where are they coming up with all the extra water?
They have water available in our system.
Okay. I just wondering.
Okay. Any other comments?
My name is Sean Holt, and to the first gentleman, I'd like to, I guess, second his opinion. I've lived in Payson 3 years, but I've lived in Utah my whole life, and it would be great to see Payson be a smaller, single-family home city, and not so much packed in like sardines, like I see some of the apartment complexes going in. And to this other gentleman's question, is there any way to see any numbers, any figures as far as water intake for the city, and how that can, how anyone in the public can, with that question, can find out answers like that?
Your best option on that would be going and talk to staff during normal business hours.
To city staff?
To city staff,
And where do we go to do that?
right
Just-
here, right,
just right here,
right in the
okay.
building. Ask for Robert.
An email, okay.
Yeah.
All right, I do have another concern. It's slightly off topic from what here. The road that I live on, 630 West, there are 2 potholes, but I believe them to be one large sinkhole. The reason I think that is because, you know, they see the 2 potholes, but then in between that is where it looks like the plumbing for the fire hydrant goes. And so I could see that, just that part being held up a little bit stronger.
Uh-huh.
It's just been a concern of mine for a little while. It's just hopefully wondering if someone who I could speak with to have that looked at and to see if,
Yeah, you need to talk to city road department, and again, you can email them. Go to the website and we'll get you contact information for that.
do they have more than just an email? Because
Yes, there's phone numbers and stuff. We'll get you some information.
Thank you.
They're running to get that right now for you.
All right, thank you. No further questions.
Thanks. Any other comment about this RMO overlay zone? I don't know if you're allowed, by the way.
I'm Brett Christensen, 451 East, 300 North, directly to the west of these lots in question. There's a few concerns here I can see. First of all, I've been involved with this since the word go in helping with this. As a disclaimer, I am on city council, so this will come before me next week to vote on it if it makes it past this point. I was against some other twin homes in the area. They did a duplex over on the corner of Barnett. I opposed that one. I did approve some twin homes here on the east side, the west side of town, just south of here last week. But context in the situation stated that those twin homes would work. It was flat grade, was a better use of the ground. The biggest concern I have with this isn't water, isn't the population density and things like that. It's actually topography. And if you look at this property, the original home was built 60, 70 years ago at the earliest. I'm not 100% sure on the date that it was actually manufactured, but the road comes in off 5th East, drops 20 feet, and then hits a flat spot. Before you can even build the house, they'd have to infill all of that to bring it up. The existing home sits down in this bottom of this hole. So by the time you get this RMO1 overlay on top of it, the people will be from the back of their house to the building envelope of this twin home, the minimum legal limit. They're just right there. And it's going to put the roof of that house 35 feet off the ground in relationship to where that home is, which is going to tower over the top of them. So I'm here in their behalf as well as my behalf. I don't necessarily want them there, but that's a decision I made. I was given the first right of refusal. I didn't buy the property to do something different with it. So that's their right to do what they want, as long as they stay within our building codes. I'm with Brother Horn, or sorry, he's in my ward, Rob Horn. He had mentioned the possibility of maybe an auxiliary dwelling unit underneath. I think that would be a great idea based upon the way that it lays out. You could have a full walkout basement, face the building to the west, face the upper floor to the east. They both have walkout looks, appearances, would be a lot better way to go. So my recommendation is not to do the RMO one, that they can come up with another alternative for that. In regards to water, I sit on the Mount Nebo Water Association board, and we work with Hanson Allen Lewis all the time. And we're doing really well for water. We have plenty of water. I know we're in a drought and everybody says, well, how do you have water? Well, Payson draws out of an aquifer that's got lots of water in it, and that's not a huge issue. Irrigation water does come out of Strawberry Reservoir, so that's a little bit different situation. But as it stands right now, that land could be irrigated as it is. So it's kind of a give and take when you start looking at water on those. But so, and just as a general consensus, the neighborhood isn't in favor of twin homes right there. So.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Seeing none.
I move we close public hearing.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? Second by Commissioner Cowan. All in favor by yes?
Yes.
Yes. Any opposed? Okay, let's discuss this. Anybody want to start?
Do we know, Mike, are they intending to sell these as separate units or one person owning and renting them out?
I don't know that. Do you know, Robert? I don't know that they've actually voiced that.
That's my understanding, is that the one home, the single home will be owned by the brother, and the other brother will own one of the twin homes and they'll find it to rent the other. Not possible.
Other discussion?
I probably fall in line with the councilman down there, and I'm less and less in favor of this multi-density housing in the city, so. And it sounds like the area, I haven't been up and looked at it, which I usually try to take the time to go inspect those areas, but I'm not a real fan.
I think probably we should notice whether it's billed as a twin home or whether it's billed as an apartment above and an apartment below. It still winds up being a rental unit with all of the issues that go with rental units. So I'm not sure that, other than maybe the functionality of the different entrances, that really makes much difference in terms of what impact it'll have on the neighborhood.
Any other comments?
Has the city engineering looked at it? Do they have any concerns or?
They have looked at it, yes. And they are aware of the sewer concern that actually, I think it goes on 500. Is it north or south?
It connects on 300
But,
north from
yeah.
my home. They actually have to put the sewer line 25 feet below grade, run it to the south, and then it turns and comes down the hill and underneath the creek and connects to the bottom of the hill. It's the only way they can get sewer into it.
So yes, that they have reviewed it.
So I guess that's some of my thought is, as much as I hate the twin home thing, is there's significant cost if they're going to develop it. And so is it necessary to have twin homes versus single family in order to develop the property ever
To make it feasible?
feasible?
Okay, any other comments?
Well, we do like to see infill happening in the city.
Yes, we
That's,
do.
less expensive for the city when we can have that kind of development take place and turns a weed patch into living quarters in a lot of cases. So
Yeah, and it is
we'd like to see some kind of development there.
a big enough lot for this infill type capacity to work on. It's actually bigger than a lot of them that we have for that purpose as well. So other discussion.
I think we're torn. I don't know that we know what we want to do.
Well, Staff has looked at it and they are recommending approval contingent upon the satisfaction of staff suggestions and any additional conditions formulated from public comment. I'm not sure we could formulate anything from the public comment because it's either not do it or a different arrangement. It does satisfy the regulations of the land use. The issue would be, as I see it, the biggest issue is making it work as far as the physical attributes of the property, the grade. It would not be much different than many of the homes as far as lot size in the area. Not necessarily in that block, but across the street, and that they're the same size lots. So,
And then just to clarify, we're looking at just the zone change. You still would have to have final plat stuff come back on this, or would they, as soon as they have that, then they're,
This is fine,
okay.
Yeah.
but you're right, it is a legislative decision because of the RMO overlay. So it will go, otherwise it will go.
other thoughts?
Motion, see what happens.
I don't think we want to. I don't want to do it.
Well, I can make a motion. Because if we want to, I'll make a motion. We'll try it and see what happens. So I'm inclined to make the motion as the staff recommends, and that is to recommend sending this to city council. If staff conditions are met and conditions are met that were brought up in the public hearing, but I'm not sure exactly what to state those as what they are.
I guess if you wanted to formulate any conditions based off what you've heard.
Well, the only thing I would formulate a condition on is if it feasibly can be made to work sewer and water wise and grade wise, then that would be one of the conditions I would have, but I don't know anything else, so.
So Kurt, your motion is for a positive recommendation.
A positive recommendation, yes. Do I have a second on that?
I'll second. Warner.
You have a motion and a second. All in favor by yes? Yes. Any opposed?
No.
So we have one no, that is Commissioner Morgan. So that'll move on to City Council. Okay. Item 5.4, this is probably what most of you are here for. Payson View Estates, Plat C, preliminary plan. This is a request by Ken Berg for approval of a 360 lot subdivision located in the R110 and R112 zones. And it covers a pretty good sized area and a whole bunch of parcels of land that I'm not going to read off because it's in the minute. It's in the notes agenda. And Mike will give us a presentation on this.
Provided my computer works.
If you can get everything to work.
As you can see, there's many parcels there. Payson View Estates has been a subdivision that has been going on for 23 years. I think 99 was the first
long time.
phase that started. So this will be, there was an error in the staff report. It should be noted that it's R19 zoning and R112 zoning currently, not R110 as the staff report said. The colors on the zone map are too close, so that's why.
Is that why it looks a little bit different there? Yeah. Okay.
So the applicant seeking preliminary plan approval for a planned residential development or PRD for phase 3. Just to let the public know, a PRD allows flexibility in lot size, altering from the traditional zoning designations such as the R19 and the R112 would allow. And there's I don't know if people can read it there, but at the bottom it's showing the tabulations of the different lot sizes that would be within this development as proposed. So I can read those because that is quite small. 6,500 square foot to 7,000 square foot, there'd be 37 lots. 7,000 to 8,000 would be 64. 8,000 to 9,000 would be 52. 9,000 to 10,000 would be 55. 10,000 to 12,000 would be 62. 12,000 to 20,000 would be 56. And 20,000 and greater would be 34. Some more details here. I'm not going to go over it thoroughly, but I did mention previously that this subdivision has been going on for a while with different phases. Staff did have a question for the applicant because they have in multiple places different lot quantities. They state on the preliminary plat 360 and 320 total lots. So that would be our question, is which one is it? We have received some public comment, and so we can read those public comment into the record. Some quick figures for you. Acreages for this property, 288.46 acres. Buildable area is 117.17 acres. And the unbuildable 146.47, the proposed open space 164.84. So this is the preliminary plat map that was submitted. As you can see, a fairly, well, quite large proposal. This is a better view that you can see from an aerial map of what it is, and you can also see the zoning designations there in the bottom left corner with the R112 and the R9. If you want to see further, I can have that link there that we can actually zoom in. So if anyone wants to see any closer on some of this property, we can do that.
Well, a lot of the comments were about grade in that and that. So it would be good to see grade and know what, I mean, I know the grade there, but it would be good to see.
And we do
contour information.
They did share in their preliminary.
Yeah, but it's 85
drawings.
different sheets.
And I do have that loaded up that I could share that if you wanted to see that. So
well, that was a lot of that was some of the comments from the 2 emails that we just received.
Okay.
So
would you like me to show that now, or should I finish this off and then
finish it off, and then let's come back to that.
So staff has done an analysis on this. There's several things to consider. The one thing was that it's a large lot development, 360, 320. We need to make sure that number is clarified, but 288.46 acres. There's city approvals that would obviously be needed with this development. Various other agencies that also need to be give approvals. We also would need to make a thorough review of the annexation agreement and make sure that everything in that is being met. And then obviously a clear understanding of the developer and city obligations that would be needed in this regard. Some of the issues there, I think were briefly mentioned with sensitive land, fault lines, slopes, potential landslides. All of these things are possibilities for some of the properties there. Ridgeline view corridor, slope stabilization, the wildland urban interface zone. Those are just to name a few there. The development agreement is recommended for this. Open space requirements for a PRD would require applicant to dedicate property to the city and would need conditions of dedication. Finally, staff is working with the applicant on various red lines that would be associated with this project. So staff is recommending to approve preliminary layout approval on this subdivision opposed to preliminary plan approval. And what preliminary layout approval does is it would require a development agreement with the applicant that would address the density, identify development obligations, and determine what vesting, if any, would occur at that point. It would also therefore allow staff and the applicant to look at this in more bite-sized pieces as they phase the project and submit those. We could have reviews on it that way. However, in this circumstance, then there are 4 possibilities of action. The council could, or the planning commission could do what the staff recommends and recommend approval of preliminary layout approval, or they can do as the applicant requests and give positive recommendation for the preliminary plat, or negative recommendation, or remand it back to staff. So that is the presentation. If you want to see some of the
applicant
layout.
left, but then he came back in. So does he want to come up and tell us anything? He's got a 2-inch stack of paper over there, so.
Yes, we've given you lots of stacks of paper to.
Yeah, it
to
was
look
quite a
through.
stack.
It's a big project, lots of detail in your preliminary plan ordinance to try to answer all the questions. And I'm sure in trying to answer all the questions, we created some more questions that we'll try to answer tonight. This is kind of a total rework of portions of the existing Payson View estates that I'm going to show my age now. The original Payson View Estates development was the first subdivision I started in when I graduated from Utah State in 1998. This one's much better than the one that I cut my teeth in many, many years ago. I think we have the ability to, in varying the lot sizes, in providing trail amenities, it's more of a community other than the just additional homes on the hillside. So I'm happy to answer many questions that you have.
Do we have any questions for Mr. Berg?
Curious what your time frame is on build out on this, because obviously Payson View Estates has taken a long time to get to where it's at.
Yeah, with the owners, they're ready to focus down on this development. In the past, it's been, oh yeah, let's do another phase, and it was slow. I think with this new plan, there's more focus. It has more lot types that broaden the market to bring more people and quicker development of Payson View Estates.
Any other questions for the applicant?
Excuse me. What type of dwellings are we looking at there? Is it single family? Is it
It's all single family homes.
all single family?
Yep.
All right.
There gonna be an HOA involved?
At this point, we are proposing all of the open space to be attached to Payson City, dedicated to Payson City. So no additional HOA fees or things like that.
Thank you.
Are there other questions for Mr. Berg?
Thank you.
Yeah, that is a question that could be answered. Which one is the right number? He doesn't know right now.
Look at my stack of papers.
He's going to be frantically counting right now.
So while he's doing that, this map shows the slope. You can see the mustardy yellowish tan color. That is between 0 and 20% slope. The pink color is between 20 and 30. And then quite honestly, they don't list the bluish color, but that's all unbuildable. The gray is also unbuildable on here. So that's the topography you can see there.
You have an indication of where the fault line might be there?
They actually did provide that as well. So you can see the really dark black areas is the fault. You can see one, yeah, I guess I can point out with my cursor, but one of them near the bottom and one just slightly above that there. Any other questions?
When we get to the public comment area, yes.
Has there been any look at what this is gonna do to traffic flow in the area up there?
So the applicant has done a traffic study there, and they could perhaps speak to that further, but they have done a traffic study on the property.
The study says it's gonna back up like everything else in Payson at this time.
I didn't read the study. I don't know.
Ken, do you have a comment on the traffic study?
In this proposed development, we have the existing 3 points of access, an additional point of access that has the potential with other developments to the west to connect to your roads on the south end of town to not try to funnel everything to the north. And that's, the traffic study stated that everything could be funneled to the north, but we realized that staff has put their foot down and said, no, you need this additional crossing of the canal. We'll work out the details to provide a road connection to 1900 or Main Street, or,
Something.
those southern collector roads that you identified in your city master plan for transportation. But like Ken said, that will depend on future development because
Right.
it doesn't connect you.
All right. Okay. Any other questions for staff or the applicant before we open public hearing?
Motion to open public hearing.
Second.
Motion and a second. Commissioner Morgan and Commissioner Moore. All in favor by yes?
Yes.
Yes. Any opposed? Okay, this is an opportunity for the public to come up and talk to us about this. Again, limit your comments to 3 minutes, state your name. And if your comments match someone that has already spoken, just state so. You don't need to restate it. So anybody want to come up and talk? We'll be glad to listen. And we do have 2 emails, one from a Rustin Jacobson and one from a Byron Haslam. If they're here, they could come up and talk. If not, we'll read these into the minutes.
Okay. My name is Dan Davis. First, I have a question for the applicant. Is there any chance at all that this development will be sold to another developer?
Not our plans, not using our plan. This is being done by Patterson Construction. It's our future phase of development.
But could you say with certainty that that would never happen?
I can not say with certainty it would never
Okay.
happen.
I live on Riley Drive. I think our main concern is traffic. I've talked to a couple of other neighbors too. It's a shared concern. There's a lot of houses there. Looking over this plat map, it feels like The undevelopable land is that they're trying to compensate for that by squeezing more houses into the land that can be developed. It feels excessive, the 3 access points, and even with the additional one. So let me back up. Riley Drive, I think, is the main concern that at least some of us have, that it could turn into kind of a thoroughfare, a second Main Street, that sort of thing. If you drive on the existing Riley Drive, if you drive from the south heading north, even 25 miles an hour at the bends creates some blind spots. There already been several close calls, children, obviously. So increasing the population density and volume to this scale does raise a lot of concern with that. So the concern about the amount of houses going in is one. The amount of the concern with the traffic flow on Riley Drive specifically is another. One potential solution, if no one else agrees with the fact that this is too many homes to put in there, potentially would be to break up Riley Drive. Maybe create a need to drive around so that you couldn't drive from one end of the development to the other. Just some thoughts there, but yeah, seems like a lot of houses to squeeze into that area, and that they're trying to squeeze in more than should be based on, maybe expectations that were there before because of undevelopable land. It feels like that they're trying to make up for something here and squeeze in just as many as they can. And it honestly just feels like it's too much. So those are my thoughts.
Anybody else?
Can we communicate via Zoom?
I'm sorry, someone online?
Talk from Zoom.
Yes, you may.
Okay, excellent. So I'm
Please.
Riley. I'm Riley Inns. I live very close to Dan Davis as well, just above Riley Drive. So I'd like to second his concern about population density, and I feel like it might be too many homes, too great a population in a small area. Second, I have a question about the trail system and if there are any plans for parks in that area, because I think it'd be a great benefit to Payson City and just the local community if there's any plans for specific parks in that area. I couldn't tell from the map.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
Go ahead and answer his questions. That's fine.
We'll answer questions at the end.
Okay.
It's easier that way.
My name is Van Devereaux. I live right next to Riley Inns and neighbors to Dan Davis.
Okay.
My question is, what has changed? When I moved here, when I built my home here, what was it, 10 years ago, 12 years ago? Patterson didn't have, I got a copy of the whole plat because I was concerned, and there weren't 320 homes there. So what has changed, and what?
We added 240 acres.
Okay. Also, Patterson, he wouldn't want to develop this all at once. He has always been one to go in stages. James Patterson has, and Blaine. But so my concern is something's changed. I don't know what it is, but something has changed. I don't know if the owners of the company or how that goes, but something has changed, and they're putting a lot more homes here than was originally planned. I have concerns about the traffic. I mean, you have 320 more people going to work in the morning. You've got a lot of traffic. I moved here because it was a nice, quiet little community. And another 320 homes changes that drastically. it's no longer a quiet little community. Riley Drive, you drive down Riley Drive, there's kids playing and everything, and they won't be able to play out there. It'll be a thoroughfare. I wonder about a trail system, just like Riley, if there is a proposal for a trail system. And I think that's it.
Okay, thank you for your comments.
That is my email.
Which one are you?
Rustin
Okay,
Rustin Jacobson, I'm up in that area too, so. We've got my email, I'll touch on that. I know I'm trying to keep the 3 minutes, so. That feeder road or the access point that they're adding, I'm wondering if I would submit my opinion to the committee that become a priority, that get built out first, because traffic is a concern and getting in and out of that will be, that's a lot of homes if they do everything first and leave that to the end. It's just a thought I had so that people can get in and out. It'd be best if they go down to the highway and not down through Main Street, because in the mornings with the high school coming in, that's a nightmare. If you're adding all these extra homes and then forcing more people down that direction, that's going to be really tough. The other questions I'd like to hear some input in from the builder is or from this building committee. How does this affect water usage? Above Riley, as you know, we're on culinary. We're not using the gray water system. We're not using that sprinkler system. So that's going to add demand and push to culinary water. I use 4,000 to 8,000 gallons a month just during the winter, just for showering and other home uses during the summer. Obviously that bumps up 40, 50,000 gallons a month. And I have a pretty conservative small yard. So with some of these lots maybe being a little bigger, if they're just going to throw lawn in all around it, you know, I'm wondering about water usage. We've only got that one tank that Patterson built a few years ago, or a number of years ago. We only tied into it a few years ago. How does that going to work? Is that going to be able to run all these new houses and watering use in the yard? So I'd like to get some input on that here, kind of where we're at with that. The other thing would be fire. You know, the fire department's down by Memorial Park with all this build out with the you know, the subdivision that's gone in there towards Spring Lake and all these additional homes. Do we need to, is there going to be more fire protection built out on this south end of town? And then the impact on schools, you know, that's a lot of homes with potential for a lot of kids. Hard to say who's going to move in, what the family dynamics are going to be, but has there been any impact assessment on that? The schools, as I've seen it, have been pretty full right there at Spring Lake and Parkview. So junior high, middle school, those kind of things. So any input on that would be appreciated. Thank you.
all right, thank you. Anybody else?
Can we speak through Zoom?
Yes.
Okay.
State your name, please.
This is Connie Hansen, and I echo the last three people that spoke. I live on Riley Drive also. I have some auxiliary questions to ask about this. We've studied the map, and I've got to say, maybe you better put some women on the committee. Second, the one thing that no one's looking at here is that we live right above the canal. I've been here 8 years. And if he's going to build this, Mr. Patterson, he better think a little bit stronger about two things. One was mentioned, the fire thing. There's been 2 major fires above here. The last one 2 years ago, we were put on alert to evacuate. And that was not a good feeling. However, the major complaint, it's not a complaint, let me take that back. The major thing that keeps me up sometimes at night is the following. The canal people are wonderful people. The general manager's nice. I've talked to the mayor. I've talked to the fire, not the fire department, the police department. For some reason, the area up here has become known of, because of all the acreage, being your off-road vehicles, bring as many as you can, and let's see how fast you can go down Riley Drive and the Canal Road without hitting someone. Now, one nice thing the Canal Road did was post that no unauthorized vehicles could be on the Canal Road. And I spoke with the manager down there and he said, we want the walkers, we want people walking their dogs, but only our company vehicles can be on that canal. So what's happened now, we have the International Speedway on the Canal Road. The police cannot handle the calls on it. They've been unable to because they're burdened with irregular things. You've got one more bridge that you want to build. I'm going to predict that unless you work with the canal system, we're going to have even more problems. There's potential for danger of people running into that canal. There's just you should hear it out here. You should hear it. And the comment's been made that there's children playing all along here. And we have a game going on is how fast can you get your dirt bike? Make sure it's not got a good muffler on it. Down the road and try to make it from one end of Raleigh to the other without killing someone. Now that's pretty strong words for me, but those are some auxiliary things you want to look at. The schools, I heard one guy talk about that. Not only the schools, and there's a separation of state and church, but the churches are overloaded with, unlike him, the other 700 houses that's been built below us, they have needs as well. I'm going to predict you're going to have a traffic problem, a canal problem, and I'd like to see other agencies involved in the conversation about this plat. I'm not for the plat development as it's stated right now or has been presented. And I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Okay, you're up.
My name is Devin Weaver. I also live in the area. So I have 3 questions. They've all been hit on pretty much this before, but specifically regarding the density, it was mentioned at the beginning that they're requesting a change in the zone from what the existing zone is. So one question I had is with the existing zones versus what was it, primary residential development, the PRD. Okay. So would the 320 or the 360 homes meet the, I don't know, the zones, the RS, whatever, the 2 zones that existed, or does that exceed what those zones would allow?
Okay.
Question number 2 about the open space. Again, I can't read the map super well. At the beginning, it was mentioned that there was a lot of open space, a large amount of acreage, but looking at the map, is that all just going to be up a hill behind people's homes and not accessible versus, developed parks, trails that are connecting into other existing trails, or, access to the open space up on the hill? So really, is the open space usable? And then is the plan for that just being, we'll deed these acres to the city and they do whatever they want with it? Or, how do we stay connected and opine on that? Third question, again, we've already talked about fire and water usage. I wasn't aware of the culinary water, which makes it even more of an issue. Brett mentioned before that we do have, we're not in super bad shape currently, but is there any thought about drought tolerant landscaping requirements? Because if we're not there now, we will be before too long. And it seems a little short-sighted to put in several hundred homes, with the potential of just, hey, sod it all and run your culinary water all day long. So I guess we have to wait until later for those questions.
Yeah,
to be
we'll
answered,
get some answers in a bit.
but- Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Anybody else? Again, if your comment has already been stated, just say, I agree. Okay, good for you.
My name's Cody Fitzwater. I live up in the area. I may have a less than popular opinion on this, I don't know. But development's gonna happen here. We can't stop it, but we do need to control it. And the cities that I've seen where they do the best, they have low income housing, they have housing for middle income people, and they have housing for high income. This is some of the most prime real estate we have in Payson right now. This should be attracting our higher income people. We need higher income people here to support our high school, to bring money to our high school. We need it to bring it to the community. We need to bring entrepreneurs here who have good ideas. We need people. So really, if it's going to be super dense, my only concern is that we're taking the best property we have here and not making the best use of it. There's going to be plenty of opportunities for higher density housing. And so I would like to see us branch out a little bit and have higher income people be attracted, because we have these beautiful lots that look over the valley. And I mean, I think from the standpoint of like some of the concerns with all the motorbikes and things like that, I get that. But if you develop this, you're going to have much less people with motorbikes who are coming up there. Right now, the people who are coming up with motorbikes love it because there are no houses there. You fill the place up with houses, they're going to find a new spot. So, I mean, some of the concerns that people have, I get them, and I'm okay with that. But to me, I think we might be missing out on a huge opportunity if we pack a boatload of houses into some of our most beautiful property that we have here that's going to have great views. So that's
Okay.
what I got.
Thank you for your comments. Anybody else?
Ben Gowans. My question is, we moved into that general area 2 years ago, and it was required before we could get our occupancy permit that we had the front and backyards, because it was on a slope, landscaped, and not just landscaped, but covered in grass. So speaking to the last gentleman's concerns, that's a lot of grass. I don't know if those same requirements are going to, I don't know if they were imposed by the city or by Patterson or how that all worked, but if you recommend or even required to grass front and backyards, because most of this is on a pretty steep slope, that's going to be a lot of water loss. So recommendation for, lower water consumption landscapes that could still hold the soil in its place so we don't all end up on a mudslide, but that's all.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yes, you may. Just don't repeat yourself, okay?
No, Mr. Gallons made me think about retaining walls and who's responsible for that. Having moved up in that area, when I moved in, Patterson just sloped it, and which is city code, you had to have a slope from the yard behind me and everything else. But that left me with the burden of trying to carry that. Now I know the code says your neighbor's supposed to retain his own yard, but the reality is that doesn't happen. So I'd like to hear Patterson's plans, especially with the slopes that are involved, how he's going to be retaining everybody's yards and controlling that as he's building that out. So he's not just leaving that open for the homeowners to try and work out and resolve. In my opinion, that would hopefully be some of his responsibility to deal with, and not just slope up a thing of dirt. Do something a little more solid. So that's my thoughts.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Let me just go ahead and read in this.
The other one.
This is from Byron Haslam. I know that the commissioners have this, but just for the public record. Dear Planning Commission, as a current resident that lives near the proposed development, I am writing this letter to express my opinion that the Planning Commission should vote against changing the land use zoning of the proposed development to allow increased density in the area. I believe the past city council that approved Title 14 sensitive lands, particularly sections 14.24.020 and 14.24.030, did so to limit development in this area to protect the crucial mule deer habitat on the hillside. Title 14 of the code of the city code talks about limiting the effect of human activity to protect the habitat of this area, which is shown on the DWR's map as crucial mule deer habitat. I think the past councils wanted low density and minimal impact to this area. This being the case, it is my opinion that the current Planning Commission should also limit the density and human activity to this habitat area. This area should be kept lower density and have more native landscaping. I feel like the open space that is being proposed is not worth giving higher density. Much of the open space is non-buildable area. The developer is trading space they cannot build on for higher density in more favorable building area. This does not benefit the city, current residents, to have open space that is non-buildable in exchange for higher density in this crucial habitat. This area should be developed in the best possible way to not disturb the habitat, like larger lots with more native landscaping. I believe this was the intent of Title 14 when it was created and should be kept as so. I do think there is good reasons cities should build larger lots with nicer homes on hillside areas and native habitat. As a current Payson city resident, I respectfully ask the Planning Commission to not approve a land use application with this much density that allow for more homes to be built in this habitat. This area should be less dense. Respectfully, Byron Haslam.
Thank you. Other comments?
Hello, everyone. My name is Matt Wilson. I'm the beneficiary or a beneficiary on a trust that owns 2 acres, a little over 2 acres, that connects to the development on the east side. And while I agree with some of the comments that I've heard tonight, one of the things that I haven't or that I'd like to mention is that that property has been in our family for around 100 years. And my fiance and I would love to be able to build someday a single family home on that property. So my question is mostly about access, but if I would be able to access that property because it connects to the Canyon Road, and the Canyon Road on that side is a cliff. And so the access from that side is not possible. So access for us would only be able to go through the development if that were the case. So that is my concern.
Thank you. Are there other comments? Ken, would you like to come up and maybe answer some questions, or your compadre there?
He won't answer any questions. He's just gonna talk for a minute.
Okay, state your name and then you'll answer the questions. Okay.
Yeah. My name is Ross Welch. I'm with Patterson Construction. And is there a way we can get that back up in terms of the flat? So I just wanted to say a few things.
Which one do you want up?
Just
the overall?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just wanted to make just a couple of comments. I really appreciated the neighbors who have expressed their concerns, because we've got a really nice development there, and we appreciate that they live there, because we try to build nice developments. In fact, it's one of the reasons why we haven't really pushed this area. We feel like it's one of our showcase properties, but it hasn't in the marketplace hit that yet, and it has now started to happen. As the one, and I can't remember his name, was talking about, this is a premier piece of property and you want to, thank you. If you can just bring that down just a little from there and just hold that. That we want this to be that higher end in some areas, but we also want to create a bit of community here. This is different than what we had originally, and I'm going to express why. Originally on this plan, as we headed towards the south and a little bit east, we had plans for townhomes, senior cottages, an assisted living facility. And we've eliminated that and just stuck to single family homes. We also acquired 240 acres, which would have maybe been developed by a different developer. And so it makes our development look large. It could have been someone else. This will be phased and staged. Yes, we have property over 100 acres that is not developable, but it is something that we've committed with the city that we will pay money to help develop it into a nice trail system that will benefit the community and will benefit the residents that live nearby. And as you can see on that plan, there's some certain areas to park so you have access, and we're hoping to connect with the other trails through the city so that this becomes an area for hiking and biking and other things up there. But it's what we have, we really feel like it's going to be a really good development. And if my neighbors don't bring out the pitchforks on me, I'm still debating whether I'm going to buy that one lot up there and build. So we'll find out and see. But anyway, they're holding it, so it's Ross's lot. Anyway, I'm going to let Ken answer the questions, but I did want to make sure this is a much larger project than what we had originally had with Payson View Estates.
You're up, Ken. What? Let's get these questions answered and then see if there's any other public comment. Is that okay? Okay.
Can you zoom over to the density calculation? So I wrote down your comments. I'm gonna jump over. I just don't go straight down. So I'd like to review with you the questions on, well, is this property more dense than what was previously done, and how we came up with the number. So the area within the existing or the previous Payson View Estate boundary had two zones in it. It had the R19 and the R112. And the R19, there was almost 25 acres. In your current zoning ordinance, you're allowed 3.5 dwelling units per acre. So we just do the math, we get the 87 units. The R112, it's 2.5 dwelling units to the acre. You could make the claim, oh, well, we take 263 acres times 2.5. I've worked with other clients that ask me to try to defend that calculation to say, oh no, it should be, 500 units. But we've gone through and identified the almost 150 of those 263 acres that either on slope or elevation below the existing water tank. So I can't service, there's developable area up there. I just can't provide water to it. So again, undevelopable. So the part that's developable is the 117 acres. We add those two together, we get the 380 dwelling units. The actual number of units is 360, not 320. And then if we angle up to the lot breakdown, we've also gone through on each of our proposed plats, proposed phases that show, oh, okay, thank you. Oh, okay. That shows the kind of lot size and breakdown as we go on to each phase. And so if just for rough percentage numbers, if you take the last two columns, the 12,000 to 20,000 and the 20,000 plus lots, if you add those together, that's 25% of the whole density that we're proposing. So we're trying to hit that variety of lot sizes. So as we heard comments about attracting, different people to Payson, we have 25% larger than what your zone is requesting. If it was just a standard subdivision. In the middle, that 9,000 to 10,000 is 33%. And then the 42 is below that in those smaller lot sizes. This same density calculation is the same. There is no bonus. There's no additional density that is allowed because we're giving you open space. In other cities, there is. You can get more if you give the city something. Your current zone in the PRD is just a different type of development to allow for more flexible lots,
to be able to say, oh, you know what, it makes sense to instead of struggling with the power line corridor that goes through there, maybe we should look and see if we can add a trail corridor with pocket parks, with parking lots that allow us to follow that power line corridor as it goes all the way down, to the canal, which then allows us additional points that gives us trails up to the 140 acres there on the hillside that provides trails that lets us get to the up into Payson Canyon. You know, so we're trying to develop a connected trail pathway that also has trails that connects to the Canyon Road and what's the trail system that heads north that's built through the kind of, yeah, through the bottoms there. So we're trying to connect those as part of this development. We talked about water usage. You're right. The area where the cursor is right now is the existing water tank that was sized for the previous Payson View Estate subdivision plus additional properties. The developer built that and had the right to be able to use all of the tank in the sizing capacity. And that is what we're also doing as part of this proposed subdivision is the tank has the capacity and has been sized to handle all 360 units as part of the not only these 360 units, but the existing units that are served off of the tank, both culinary and irrigation water, because it's a single source system in this upper pressure zone. And the other, we talked about fire in several of these upper cul-de-sacs. We've provided additional width in the trails and in the construction of those trails so that the fire department has the ability to get their fire apparatus, you know, a brush truck or something up into that open space to be able to fight their fires as recommended by the fire department. They ask for it, we give it to them. Just looking at my other questions here. On the retaining walls and grading plans, as part of city code, which is now a little bit, well, it is different than the original Payson View Estates. Every lot is required as part of their building permit to submit a detailed grading plan that the city reviews, that the city approves to handle those lot-to-lot drainage issues, where they're going to build a retaining wall, the permits associated with building that retaining wall. Just a lot more detail is now required to build a home than it was previously.
Ken, one of the questions was the open space. Your plan is to deed that all to the city? Is that what?
In the discussions we've had with city staff is that, you know, it's in everyone's developer city's best interest to, you know, have the hillside and the kind of additional gateway up Payson Canyon be held by the city. And then the other pocket parks, they will have, you know, that will stay natural with
trail improvements. But the other areas down inside, we're working with the city on that level of improvement, whether it's trails and pocket parks. The trails are for sure, the asphalt trails that follow underneath the power line to some pocket parks that have a little parking lot. There may be playgrounds. We're working through those issues as part of those final development plans.
Thank you. Does that, you have any other questions you've got the ability to answer?
On the traffic, seems like every development I do, that's the problem is traffic.
It's a big issue.
It is.
It doesn't matter which development it is. It's a big issue.
We're aware, we're trying to understand where our best access points are to begin the development. As you can see, most of the property is south of the existing units. And so we're aware of that. We're working through, we'll try and we'll work with staff on any traffic mitigation that kind of sees fit that as we develop. It's hard to commit to build something when we don't have the other endpoint in our
Obviously,
control.
1900 South would be a great place to,
It would.
but you don't own what's to the west of you.
We don't own what's to the west. We have talked to the canal company, and the crossing that we show meets their spacing requirements. They're in support of the crossing. It's just a matter of timing on when that connection could and should be made.
Thank you. Any other public comment before we close the public hearing?
Is there any thoughts on the sod versus drought tolerant landscaping requirements, or?
That'd be a question for the city.
Yeah, I think the market is headed people that direction to begin with, on what they want their exterior landscaping to be. And I know in other cities, and I think Payson's headed this direction of PI metering to where you have that. And so
Where we have PI, yes.
right. But I think that would still apply to here so people understand how much water they're using to have that feedback of, oh, I'm using a little too much water here. And so we'll be aware of it. There's multiple ways to propose, a certain percentage for landscaping. At this preliminary stage, we haven't gotten into that level of detail.
City ordinance that the city would have, like, if the city says drought tolerant, that's what it is. If they don't, then we leave it up to homeowners.
Typically, yes, we do.
The city is fully supportive of drought tolerant landscaping. Our specific role in places like this is erosion control. That can be accomplished through many, many different avenues, not just sod. Sometimes sod is not the best avenue for that.
So when I purchased my home 2 years ago, there were other options, or was sod the only?
Well, I'm not going to speak to that because I don't know what the development agreements and things like that. All I'm going to say is that the city supports erosion control through drought tolerant options if available.
Yeah, and again, even in these preliminary plans, as part of that building permit submittal in this area, we're required to submit a detailed grading plan for the lot, plus a detailed landscape plan. And that is a requirement for the homes in this area as part of this development. So it's just not the city will be reviewing those landscape plans to show what percentage of sod or grass or how they're proposing that landscape.
I just have a clarification on zoning. So was this proposal
Yeah, come up to the microphone so we can get it recorded, please. And remember to state your name again because we don't remember who you are.
Yeah, that's okay. So Dan Davis, just a clarification point, does this proposal fit within the guidelines of was it R19 zoning? Or does it have to be, so what's the minimum lot size on R19? So these go down to the 6,000 range. So then we're proposing something more dense than R19, right?
There is some of this area that's R112.
Right, which would be a less dense.
So that it's just the overall project density, because that's what the PRD allows him to say, we can have smaller lots to allow better traffic flow and things like that.
So there isn't a hard minimum then? There's not a hard minimum.
Without the
of
PRD,
9,000.
there is.
Without, yeah,
The PRD would allow the variation in zones, but without it, then he would have to have 9,000 square foot minimum no matter what,
So R19 still allows this proposal.
if
Okay.
the PRD is approved.
That was just the clarification.
Yeah.
My name's Cody Fitzwater again. So once again, I always probably have not the most popular thoughts on this, but all of the answers to the questions for me kind of satisfy most of my concerns probably for this. I don't love 6,000 to 7,000 square foot lots. It's not my favorite thing. But probably what I would have to say is somebody didn't love it when I moved up there. And somebody still sat in you guys' position and allowed those lots to be developed. Whether I love the size of the lots or not, I like the fact that we have some larger lots to attract some varying degrees of people that are up there. And so I'm in favor of development. The more houses go in, the less likely mine is to burn down from a fire. So that's a good thing. But really, like I said, I don't love 6,000 and 7,000 square foot lots, but I do like the answers that have been given so far. And we're all part of the traffic problem. We started it. Somebody else is just going to add to it. If we can find great ways to help make that a little bit less burdensome, especially in the high school, I support that for sure. But otherwise, it'd be nice to have some houses up there, have less fire risk. So
Okay,
that's my
thank you.
thoughts.
One more comment. Unfortunately, it's Bob. No, Bob, you have to come up to the microphone. We're not going to let you get away with sitting in the background.
Well, I'm gonna get to see this in.
Yes, you will.
Bob Proscard, member of the city council. So the question I had is, could we get a clarification on whether Mr. Wilson, is that your name, would have access to his property from your development? That hasn't been addressed yet.
If Mr. Wilson can come point where his property is, we'd be happy to discuss it.
My phone's struggling to load, so. Can you see it on the map? From the GPS map, I can tell it. Where the trails are. While they're finding that, I'll speed things up and say, I served on the council in the 90s.
When this was,
When this
was
annexed this
initially
and-
coming out.
And we initially zoned it. And my first comment is, it's refreshing to see a plat that's single family homes. I think I can speak for all of you there in the council that we've seen way too much multiple housing the last while, but it's a market-driven market. And that's what kids can afford. And so that's what's driving the market right now. I do concur that when we zoned this, the vision was future would see the south and to the west, some more dense housing. But I also, I'm struggling. When I first seen the plat a month ago or a little over a month ago, I really struggled with the 6,000 square foot lots, knowing what the vision was of the city at that time to have the nicer homes up in that area. I can honestly tell you tonight, I'm still mixed feelings on it. It does make me feel a lot better to know that they're all single family homes though. So we got a clarification, yeah?
Yep.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
Just an online comment, if you have.
Sure. Would you state your name, please?
Yes, it's Abby Haslam. Thank you. Thank you, Planning Commission, so much for listening to us today. And I just want to say thank you so much to that City Council man who just spoke. When I was reading City Code Section 14, talking about how the hillside is one of our most beautiful attributes of Payson City, and how they wanted to protect it back in the 90s with not putting such high density homes in that area. It was so nice to read that and to know that the area that we live in was really important back then. And I would like to see it still be protected now. And then just when the last man who spoke, who was from the developer, who was speaking about how he had wanted to, how he was originally going to put a senior living area in the area, that wouldn't be the code, that wouldn't be available with the code. So that wouldn't have been an option. So I just wanted to point that out as well. But thank you so much. And I would just discourage the changing the zone to a high density zoning. Thank you.
Ross Welch from Patterson Construction again, just regarding Miss Haslam, that was a conceptual plans that we'd gone through the city at the time we got Payson View Estates approved. But I just want to show to the commission and people here if they want afterwards, I want to show these plans that we do on 6,500 square foot lots. I mean, they include 3-car garages. I mean, it's not like this is, modular housing type thing. So if I share this with you, a couple of renderings of not renderings, actual homes we've built that meet the dimensions we need on the. There it is down there. So I only have one copy today. We very much value our property. The current development we're doing up there will have homes we're going to be constructing close to $1 million. I mean, this development is going to have a wide variety and will be a great little community unto itself with product offerings for all type. Unfortunately, I don't know what the definition of a starter home is anymore. We've got homes in the city center of Eagle Mountain at over $600,000. It's incomprehensible to me what's happened. But yes, these will definitely be very nice homes in all areas. In some areas, we're finding people actually aren't seeking out big lots. They want big homes. They just don't want big lots. So it's lower maintenance for them and so forth. So I will say this, we have done a pretty good job, have a history throughout all our developments of maximizing the value of our property. So in terms of the kind of homes and developments that we do. And I remember one time someone telling me about that. I said, do you think we're going to build something cheap up there that makes our property worth less money? I mean, our goal is to maximize that. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Did we get the one question answered on his home?
So the property that we're looking at is this piece right here. The next one over. So it currently adjoins Payson View Estates Plat H.
Right.
And as part of the hillside ordinance, you take a line down the ridge, that's the top of the hill right there. And you go 100 feet on each side of the top of the ridge. So you can see on our side, it didn't allow us to plat lots from that hillside to protect the ridge line ordinance. I know you have 2.5 acres, but
I don't want to be the dream crusher, but we might have some issues there to where those restrictions eat up a lot of that 2.5 acres. But we can talk after on how that may work. So.
Okay, thank you. I move we close the public hearing.
Second, Frisbee.
All in favor by yes?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, discussion, commission. We've got a lot to talk about.
Well, maybe I'll start. I appreciate the thought that has gone into this development, and like Councilman Prosgaard, I'm grateful that it's all single-family homes. I had a few questions coming in tonight, and fortunately, most of those have already been discussed and answered. I just kind of wanted to tag on to what Mr. Fitzwater said earlier. This area of Payson is of all, it's prime real estate for executive housing. And if we take a look at the proportions of different kinds of housing across the city, we have plenty of low-income housing. Proportionally, we are not violating any of the state regulations on the proportion of low-income housing versus other housing in the community. If there were ever a place, though, for the city to have ideal lots for executive housing, it's on that southeast portion of the city. I know we're talking dollars and cents, but I do not like the 6,500 square foot lots. I really, in this area, I don't even like them under 7,000 square feet. I'm thinking of some bigger houses on these lots. I recognize there's some economics that are involved here in that. But I think we'll have more of the kind of housing we want, the community we would really like to see in that area with some larger lots, inviting some bigger homes. I just, my feeling is that that's what should go into that area. Thank you.
Does that include your thinking even down along the canal where it's already smaller lots?
Well, I rode up there today and looked at it, and I think so, because those are still view lots up in there.
Yeah.
So,
But some of those are already smaller than that smaller range. They're in the
yeah.
7.5 to 9,000 already. So
I'm recognizing that what I'm saying here isn't going to happen. I know we're not going to get no small lots in
Okay.
this, in the subdivision, but I really like to see a shift in the proportions to what's proposed here.
so that you'd like to see something more than they had 25% in the larger lots.
Well, the 25% he talked about were the
It's
largest.
25% of the land area.
Yeah, but I would like to see more of the 10,000 square foot lots throughout.
Other comments? John?
I've got several concerns that I'd like to talk about.
Talk close to the mic so that
We'll slide it over then.
yeah.
But first of all, I agree with Bob. There are no condos in this proposal. All single family dwelling lots. Doing a quick calculation with 360 lots up there, if people have 2 automobiles per family, that's 720 cars we're going to add to the traffic right there. A lot of people have more than 2 cars in their lots, which could probably approach 1,000 automobiles that'll be traveling those streets. And I agree with Blair. 6,500 square foot lot with a large house on it gives you an invitation to open your window and shake hands with your neighbor.
And you don't like that? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I like my neighbors, but I like a little distance between. So I think 6,500 lots, in my opinion, is too small. And my other concerns about infrastructure. I know we have culinary water. I'm wondering how our water system, our culinary water system can handle the increase and how our sewer system can handle the increase. I'd like to see some input maybe from our staff on that. And pressurized irrigation. Is there pressurized irrigation in this area?
Not above the canal,
No,
no.
above the canal. Okay. That's gonna be using a lot of water, and so I think we need to. talk about
Now,
some-
if we could talk somebody into piping the canal, we could pressurize it that way.
Yeah. You know, but anybody does that for a living?
And we might be working on that someday.
All right. Yeah, I think we need to talk about some xeriscaping, some dry lots. Dry landscape. That probably needs to be included in either in ordinances or voluntarily by the developer. But those are my concerns, and I'd like to just see some direction on some of those.
Okay, both Blair and John, what would be your minimum lot size?
I'm thinking 9 to 10,000.
It'd probably go as low as 8.
Okay. Other comments? Commissioner Morgan, do you have any? You probably,
I would agree with the comments made by these other two commissioners.
okay. Commissioner Marzan?
I also agree. Personally, I feel like we should remand this. That's my opinion. I don't know how the rest of you feel. But I feel like there's a lot left open, that even doing the preliminary layout, we're not quite ready. That's my feeling.
Okay. Commissioner Frisbee?
So lots of the stuff's engineering questions, which those obviously all have to be answered prior to building or anything like that. Traffic, schools, water issues. I think most of the commissioners know I'm not a big fan of small lots, but in this instance, I actually think they somewhat make sense because it allows us to build a better traffic pattern and roadways because we can fit things in a little better through the development. And so with the topography constraints and stuff, again, I'm not a huge fan of all the cul-de-sacs and stuff that go in there, but I understand that to develop in that area, we're going to have some of that because we can't have a grid network that's just straight lines through a development like that. And so having some of the smaller lots, I think it makes sense in this case. When I look at the total calculations, I mean, at least what I'm seeing, I have 130 some odd acres of buildable space and 360 units. So we're only talking about 3 units roughly per acre as spread out over the whole development. Yes, we have some spots that's slightly more dense, but overall, we're looking at 3 units per acre, which does make sense as not being a really dense development. It's actually bigger than what I'm living on by quite a bit when we're talking 3 units per acre. So, so overall layout, I think that makes sense. My one big question is does the city really want to be responsible for 140 acres on the hillside? Because I don't know that we want to be responsible to maintain that if it comes as a, hey, here's the handoff to Payson City, and now Payson City's liable if the land comes down into these homes. And they're saying, hey, well, Payson City didn't maintain this hillside zone. And now if we do have a landslide or we have something, then they want to come back to the city and say, well, now the city's liable because you own the property that the slide developed on or the fire came through and you didn't stop it on your property. So that would be my big concern, is this property being dedicated to the city could become a huge liability. So, but other than that, I think, you know, the layout it's a challenge because of the topography, but I think the engineering and stuff take place makes it look like it would work pretty well in this area.
Commissioner Moore?
My thoughts are similar to Commissioner Frisbee's, where I love that the parks will be developed and then given to the city. But my concern would be, then what kind of thing? Like, are we ready to take that on? The smaller units that are there, after looking at the different open spaces that are going to be around it, I don't think they're going to feel as small. Like, yes, the property that you own is going, it might be smaller than your neighbors, but there's a lot of open space around them between the trails and all that. So that's one of the reasons why I'm okay with the smaller lots where they're at. Yeah, I think that's most of the thoughts I have.
Commissioner Warner.
And this is probably a note for the future that probably applies more to staff than the developer, but we do have some significant slopes along the upper side of this development. I can see a homeowner being tempted to level the land there and put a scar on the side of the hill to be able to do that. I think we should have some kind of controlling development agreement or an ordinance or something that will prevent that from happening, so we don't have a scar on the hillside.
Anybody else have any other comments? I have a question for staff on this. If we were to go with your recommendation, which is a preliminary layout approval, what are we agreeing to there? Just to clarify for me and maybe others.
So preliminary layout will allow for the developer to potentially have some direction that they can actually begin to proceed with next steps, but it typically doesn't give any vesting unless council decides to add any amount of vesting rights to that. So council would be able to address density, they'd be able to address the development obligations and any vesting. So, but it's a way in which it gives some means of moving forward for the applicant, but not necessarily giving any vesting rights. So,
okay. Robert probably has something to add.
No,
Looks
I thought
like
that was really good. The only thing that I would add for clarification is that Payson doesn't have a concept plan approval process, but this is next to it.
this is similar to a concept plan.
Yeah. So essentially what we're saying is, as a general rule, we think that this has potential and that overall, we think you're headed in the right direction. We understand that from here, the developer is going to submit, individual preliminary and final plan approvals for these individual phases, essentially, that information is going to be worked out. We recognize that there's still a lot of information that's not understood. And so this was to come to Planning Commission, we wanted to recognize that the developer, the applicant had a desire to come and to speak with you folks and to have an actual recommendation for you. This is probably the best that we could come up with, but we recognize that there are still unanswered questions. And so we are at your disposal. So I would just say though, if you want to remand it back to staff, that's absolutely fine. Please give us direction on the answers that you want us to come back with, if they're anything other than what we've discussed tonight, which is a long list.
What about if we proceeded with the recommendation as you had, but put stipulations on that? Is that possible? For example,
it's your recommendation.
What's that?
It's your recommendation.
But that is something that we can do. For example, we could say we agree that we would recommend preliminary layout approval as long as the lots are no less than 8,000 or something. We could do that.
Sure.
Okay.
Again, this is just your recommendation to the city council.
If we do that, what is the next step?
then we would go to the city council and with a preliminary layout approval similar to this, them granting that, not preliminary plan approval.
Okay. Any other questions by commission members?
Have we confused you enough?
I think so. I think you've sufficiently given us enough to chew on, so. Anybody ready to make a motion of any kind?
I will make a motion that we recommend to the city council preliminary layout approval of the Payson View Estates Plat C. Understanding that this is just the preliminary plat or preliminary layout approval, that we are heading in the right direction for what would be developed in this area. That we address some of the issues tonight about density and traffic flow before it comes back for final approval. But I believe this is heading in the right direction and in the proper density for the location in which we're looking at. So
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second, more.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor by yes?
yes.
Yes. All opposed?
Yes.
Yes.
I have 2 nays, Commissioner Marzan and Commissioner Morgan. Recommend we'll go to the city council with those caveats. Thank you all for coming and your participation tonight. We appreciate it. It's good to have people here, by the way. We a lot of times do this before an audience of none. So we appreciate your input and being here. Thank you. Next item is commission and staff reports and any training. Does staff have anything to tell us? I hope it's not training tonight.
There's no training tonight,
Thank you.
but I would like you to put on your calendars that we are planning for September 28th.
Which date?
September 28th, which would be your second meeting in September, to do a South County planning training, similar to what you all did last year in Spanish Fork.
Right.
So Payson is going to be hosting
We're the
this year.
host this
Yeah,
time.
we're
Good.
hosting this year.
Okay.
And it will be at the Plunder Building.
The
In
what?
the business building, in the business park, the Plunder Building out on American Way.
Oh, okay.
They have graciously invited us to be there, and it'll be a fun opportunity to show off a Payson business.
Does it echo as bad as the golf course?
I hope not. So we just wanted to get that on your calendar. It's either going to be the 28th or the 29th, but if it's the 28th, we'll just, well, either way, that will replace your meeting for
Okay.
the second meeting in September.
Any commissioner reports or anything?
Will that be at 6:30 still? Do we know, or do we have a time on that?
It'll probably be like a 6 to 9 type of situation. We'll feed you.
Dinner
Yep.
type stuff? Okay.
Yeah. Just to incentivize you coming for that many hours.
We're not going to just have peanuts and water, are we?
There's
What's
chocolate.
wrong with that?
Okay.
Put your requests in now.
Okay.
I move we adjourn.
I think that's a good motion. Anybody opposed to that?
Nice.
Thank you all for coming. John
Cowan.
did. Commissioner Cowan. No one opposed.